Sophia had always been a focused, disciplined student. She grew up in a small, sleepy town where everyone knew each other. The slow pace of life suited her, and she always felt a sense of security. But when her parents decided to send her to a prestigious school in the city, everything changed. The school was located in the heart of the bustling city, a stark contrast to her quiet hometown. It was large, and the campus was surrounded by high-rise buildings and busy streets. The hostel where Sophia stayed was even more daunting. The place was filled with students from all over the country, and she felt like a small fish in a vast, unfamiliar ocean. The first few months were hard. Everything felt different. The students spoke with different accents, and many had grown up in cities, while she was just adjusting to the chaos. She struggled to make friends. She spent most of her free time studying, trying to focus on her grades. It wasn't that she didn't want to make friends, it was just hard for her to connect with so many people who were so different from her. But then, after a few weeks, something changed. One evening, during dinner in the hostel's cafeteria, she met Mia and Lucy. Mia was outgoing, with an infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile. She had a way of drawing people in, and Sophia found herself laughing more than she had in weeks. Lucy, on the other hand, was quiet and reserved, but something was calming about her presence. She listened carefully when Sophia spoke, and her kindness made Sophia feel less alone. After that, the three of them began spending more time together. They studied in the library, grabbed meals together, and spent hours in the common areas talking about everything and anything. The hostel, which had once seemed so cold and unfamiliar, began to feel more like home. Sophia started to feel like she was finally finding her place, surrounded by friends who understood her. But even with her growing friendship with Mia and Lucy, Sophia still felt the pressure of school. The workload was draining, and sometimes it felt like she was constantly on the edge of burnout. Mia noticed this, and one evening she suggested, "Sophia, you need to take a break. You've been working non-stop. Let's go out and have a little fun." Sophia hesitated. She wasn't much of a partier. She had always preferred quiet nights with a good book or a cozy movie. But Mia's bright smile and Lucy's gentle encouragement made her reconsider. "Just one night, Sophia," Lucy said, her voice soothing. "You deserve it." The thought of a night away from schoolwork was tempting, and Sophia had never really permitted herself to relax. Maybe this would be good for her. So, after some coaxing, she agreed. The three of them decided to head to a cafe downtown, one that was popular with students from their hostel. It wasn't a loud, rowdy bar, just a small cafe with cozy lighting, soft music, and comfortable booths. As they entered the cafe, the familiar sounds of chatter, music, and clinking glasses greeted them. The atmosphere was warm and inviting. The small table by the window was available, and they sat down, looking out over the city streets below. They ordered drinks, and Mia, with her usual mischievous grin, encouraged Sophia to try something new. "Go ahead," Sophia, it'll be fun, Mia said, passing her a colorful cocktail with a slice of lime. Sophia wasn't much of a drinker, but Mia was persistent, and Lucy reassured her. It's just a drink, Sophia. Reluctantly, Sophia took a sip. It was sweet, refreshing, and surprisingly light. The alcohol tasted unfamiliar, but not unpleasant. Okay, this isn't so bad, she admitted, her shoulders relaxing a little. Mia raised her glass to a night of no worries. She toasted, and they all clinked their glasses together. The conversation flowed easily after that. They laughed at funny stories, joked about their professors, and shared their dreams and fears. Sophia, who had been so focused on her studies, felt herself begin to relax. The weight of the world seemed to lighten just a little. As the night wore on, the drinks kept coming, and Sophia felt the warmth of the alcohol spreading through her body. It made her feel light, but she didn't realize how much she had until she started feeling dizzy. The room seemed to sway slightly, and the sounds of the cafe grew louder. Her head felt foggy, like a thick cloud was clouding her thoughts. I think I've had too much, she said, her voice slurring just a little. She felt a wave of unease wash over her. Mia, a little tipsy herself, laughed and waved it off. Come on, Sophia, you're fine. We'll walk back to the hostel. It'll be fun. Lucy, too, urged her to stay calm. We'll get you back to the hostel in no time, she said softly, helping Sophia to her feet. Just take it slow. But Sophia wasn't sure she could. Her vision was blurry, and her legs felt unsteady. She could barely hold herself upright as they left the cafe. The cool night air hit her like a slap, but it didn't seem to help clear her mind. Everything felt disconnected, like she was floating outside of her body, watching herself stumble down the street with Mia and Lucy on either side of her. I think I need to sit down, Sophia mumbled, trying to steady herself. We're almost there, Lucy said, her hand on Sophia's back. Just a little further. But everything went black before Sophia could take another step. When Sophia woke up, she was lying on a cold, hard surface. Her head was pounding, and her limbs felt heavy. Slowly, she opened her eyes, but the bright light of the sun stung. She blinked a few times, trying to orient herself. She was lying in the middle of a street, confused, disoriented, and alone. She gasped, her heart racing as she scrambled to sit up. Her clothes were wrinkled, and her jacket was nowhere to be found. Panic set in as she looked around, but she didn't recognize anything. The streets were unfamiliar. The people rushing by on the sidewalks had no faces. It was as if she had been transported into a nightmare. Her phone was missing. Her bag was gone. The world around her seemed to spin, and she clutched her head in agony, trying to focus. She had to get back to the hostel. She had to find out what had happened. Stumbling to her feet, she tried to walk, but her legs wobbled beneath her. She didn't know which way to go, where she was, or how to get back. Finally, after what seemed like forever, Sophia managed to find a nearby police station. She staggered inside, her face pale and her hands shaking. The officer behind the desk looked up with concern. "Are you okay, miss?" he asked. I don't know," Sophia whispered, her voice trembling. "Something happened. I was with my friends last night. I don't remember much, but I think I was hurt. I woke up in the street. I don't know how I got there." The officer motioned for her to sit. "Don't worry, we'll help you. Just take a deep breath." Sophia sat down, trying to calm her racing heart. She couldn't remember anything clearly from the night before, just flashes of images, of laughing with her friends, of walking down the street with Lucy and Mia. But everything after that was a blur, a black void in her memory. The officer asked her a series of questions, writing down notes. He seemed kind, but there was a serious tone in his voice. After some time, he left to review security footage from the cafe and surrounding areas. Sophia was left alone in the room, her hands trembling in her lap as she stared at the floor, trying to piece together the fragments of the night. Hours later, the officer returned. His face was grim. "I have some bad news, miss," he said gently. "We've reviewed the footage, and it appears one of your friends was involved. Lucy. She was seen leaving the cafe with you last night and spending time with you when you were unconscious." Sophia's heart dropped. "Lucy, no, she wouldn't." "I'm afraid so," the officer said. "The footage shows her leaving with you and then spending time alone with you. We believe she took advantage of you while you were incapacitated." The words struck Sophia like a physical blow. Lucy, her friend, the one she had trusted with everything, how could this be true? The officer gave her space to process, but it felt like the world had come crashing down around her. After everything they had shared, after all the late-night talks and laughter, Lucy had betrayed her in the worst way possible. The days that followed were a blur of police reports, investigations, and soul-crushing realizations. Lucy was arrested, and the evidence against her was damning. She had betrayed Sophia's trust, taking advantage of her, without her permission. It was hard to face the truth, hard to accept that someone she had considered a friend could do something so horrible. But Sophia didn't let that define her. She went through the motions of the investigation, telling the police what she could remember, reliving the worst night of her life over and over again. In time, Sophia began to heal. She spent hours talking with a therapist, working through the trauma and the pain. The weight of the betrayal still lingered, but with every passing day, it became a little easier to breathe. She found strength in herself, in the people who loved her, and in the idea that she could move forward from this. Months later, Sophia stood before a room of students, sharing her story. She had become an advocate for other survivors, speaking out about the importance of consent, trust, and healing. The pain of what had happened would never fully go away, but Sophia had taken back her power. She was no longer a victim. She was a survivor. The road to healing was long and hard, but it was hers to walk. And with each day, she grew stronger, wiser, and more determined to live her life on her own terms. The days after Lucy's betrayal felt like a heavy fog, and Sophia couldn't remember much about the immediate aftermath. But the one thing that stood out most in her mind was the constant pressure in her chest. She didn't feel like herself anymore. The vibrant city that once held so much promise now felt like a vast, indifferent space. The towering buildings seemed to watch over her with cold detachment, and the busy streets were a reminder of how isolated she felt. It had been a week since Lucy was arrested, and although the investigation was ongoing, Sophia had yet to fully process what had happened. At night, she would lie awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the events from that fateful evening. The images flashed in her mind: the laughter at the cafe, the warmth of the drinks, the growing dizziness, and then the darkness. It was a blur, but the realization that Lucy, someone she had trusted, had played a role in her suffering was a weight she couldn't shake off. She tried to talk to her parents, but the words didn't come out the way she wanted them to. Every time she picked up the phone, her mother's voice on the other end sounded so far away, so disconnected from the pain she was experiencing. "It's going to be okay, sweetie," her mom would say. "You're strong. You'll get through this." But no matter how much her parents tried to comfort her, the ache inside her remained. Her friends Mia and Lucy, once the source of joy and laughter, were now a source of confusion and betrayal. Mia had sent several texts, apologizing profusely for not realizing the extent of what was happening, but Sophia couldn't bring herself to reply. She wasn't sure she even wanted to hear from Mia. And Lucy, despite the betrayal, had never once reached out. She had been quiet in the face of the police investigation, leaving Sophia to wonder if she had ever truly known her at all. Sophia couldn't go back to her old life, not yet, anyway. The weight of it all was too much, so she threw herself into her studies, something that had always been her refuge, the one thing she could control. Days blurred into nights as she sat in the library, surrounded by books and papers, trying to drown out the noise in her mind. But no matter how hard she focused, there was always a nagging feeling in the back of her mind. One day, as she sat in the library, trying to read for her upcoming exams, Mia walked in. She spotted Sophia immediately, but Sophia didn't make eye contact. She kept her head down, pretending to focus on the textbook in front of her, but Mia wasn't easily deterred. She approached cautiously, sitting at the table beside Sophia. "Hey," Mia said softly, her voice apologetic. Sophia didn't respond, not at first. She couldn't bring herself to look at her, to acknowledge the hurt Mia had caused by not seeing the warning signs earlier. "I know you probably don't want to see me," Mia continued, "but I wanted to say I'm sorry, Sophia. I failed you. And I know there's nothing I can say to make it right, but I just need you to know how sorry I am." Sophia looked up, finally meeting Mia's eyes. They were filled with regret and guilt, but Sophia wasn't sure if she could accept it. She swallowed hard before speaking. "I don't know what to say," Sophia whispered. "I don't know how to make sense of it. I trusted you both, and I don't know who to trust anymore." Mia reached out, but Sophia quickly pulled her hands back. "Please, Mia, don't." Her voice cracked, and her heart felt like it was breaking all over again. I don't know what to think right now." Mia nodded, tears welling up in her eyes. "I get it. I really do. I just wanted to be here for you, even if I can't fix this. If you ever want to talk." Sophia shook her head. "I need time." And time was something she wasn't sure she had. The next few weeks passed by in a blur. The exams came and went, and although Sophia had managed to pull through with her grades intact, she couldn't shake the sense of emptiness that lingered over her. Her mind constantly drifted to what had happened, to the broken trust and the shattered sense of security. Eventually, Sophia decided to take a step she hadn't expected. She sought therapy. She had never been one to open up easily, but after everything that had happened, she realized that she couldn't keep it all inside anymore. She needed help. The therapist's office was a calm space, with soft lighting and neutral tones, a contrast to the storm raging inside her. As she sat in the chair, her hands clenched tightly in her lap, she felt both vulnerable and empowered. "It's okay, Sophia," the therapist said, her voice gentle and reassuring. "We're going to take this one step at a time. Let's start with how you're feeling right now." Sophia's voice shook as she spoke. "I feel betrayed, and I feel like I'm broken. Like I can't trust anyone anymore. I just want to forget everything, but every time I try, it's like the pain just gets worse." The therapist nodded. "It's natural to feel that way after what you've been through. But you are not broken. What happened was not your fault. You did nothing wrong, and the path to healing isn't about forgetting. It's about processing, understanding, and learning how to move forward." It wasn't an easy journey, but Sophia slowly began to heal. Every week, she visited the therapist, each session giving her a bit more clarity and a little more peace. She started to focus on her goals once again, not just her studies, but her future. She realized that despite everything, she was still strong. She was still Sophia, and she would not let this define her. One day, while walking through the campus, Sophia received a text message. It was from Mia, and it was the last thing Sophia had expected. "I understand if you never want to talk to me again. But I want you to know that no matter what happens, I'll always be here for you. I'm so sorry for everything. I never meant for this to happen." Sophia stared at the screen for a long time. She wanted to scream, to delete the message, and move on. But something inside her softened. She had worked so hard to heal, to let go of the anger and pain, and this message, though painful, was part of that healing process. She took a deep breath and typed back, "Thank you, Mia. It's going to take time, but I'm working on finding peace. I'm not there yet, but I'm trying." She hit send, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a small sense of relief. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet, but it was a step in the right direction. Sophia's journey wasn't over. There were still days when the memories felt too raw and when the world felt too heavy. But with each passing day, she became stronger. She had faced her deepest fears and darkest moments and emerged with a new understanding of herself. She had learned that healing didn't mean forgetting, it meant accepting, growing, and, most importantly, finding peace in the face of adversity.